All right, folks, we have audio on, we have screen sharing up, so let's get going. I'm John Weisenberger, creator of the HireWorx new employee recruitment and interviewing process, and I'm really excited to share with you some of the details about that process in today's masterclass. Now, why am I so excited? Well, I'm going to show you a high-performance recruiting and interviewing process that you can use to quickly transform your current hiring process into an efficient, repeatable system so you can confidently hire great employees without spending a fortune on external recruiters or wasting your time interviewing the wrong candidates that are distracting you from really doing your main job, which is running your business. Now, if you've ever hired the wrong person, you know just how painful that can be. A bad hire can soak up all your time and they can disrupt everyone around them before they eventually quit or get fired. And no one needs that. In fact, in a landmark hiring for attitude study, researchers discovered that 46% of new hired employees will fail to perform up to expectations within 18 months of being hired. And only 19% will achieve true success. So that means the middle 35%, right? More than a third of the people you hire will just be average C players at best. And is that what you really want for your team? In the same study, they also discovered that technical skills are not the primary reason that new hires fail. Instead, what the researchers discovered was poor interpersonal skills dominated the list of reasons why people don't succeed in their position. And that poor personality fit was a flaw that many of the managers that hired them admitted that during the job interview, they didn't detect that. So in fact, it's so important that personality and attitude are the cause of 89% of hiring failures. So while technical skills account for a small percentage of the failures, it's all about the personality fit of that employee for the position that they're being hired for. Now, I'm sure you know that after a hiring mistake is made, the cost to replace the employee can be substantial. Not to mention there'll be internal drama and performance issues you'll have to deal with before you can correct a bad hire. For example, that cost in Georgia, as an example, for a retail sales associate to replace that associate is about $9,000. If you look at the cost of a bad hire housekeeper in a Vegas hotel, it's around $8,000. If you look at the typical replacement cost of an insurance sales agent in Ohio, well, that's going to cost about $16,000. And lastly, if you start looking at higher salary people like an electrical engineer in Texas, that'll cost you almost $23,000 to replace that individual. So all in all, if you look at a study done by the U.S. Department of Labor, they estimate that the replacement cost for the average replacement is 30% of an individual's first year earnings. And that doesn't include some of the other costs like your cost of advertising, your cost of paying a recruiting fee, the time that is involved of your members of your interviewing team, interviewing people. So when you have to replace a bad hire, the cost can add up substantially, not to mention the time that that position goes unfilled. So before we get started with the rest of the training, some of you may be wondering, well, who is this guy and why should I listen to him? Well, as I mentioned, my name is John Weisenberger, and I've been hiring and managing people for over 30 years, first as an engineering manager and then as a marketing manager, and lastly as a general manager in a couple of different industries. And yes, I've made a few bad hires in my career, including an engineer who couldn't code and a quality manager who was always absent for one reason or another. If you're also anything like me, I'm sure you understand that the business world has changed a lot since the COVID pandemic, and the challenge of hiring and retaining good, reliable, conscientious employees has become much more difficult than it once was. There's things like hybrid and fully remote employees that are now the new normal, as well as you have employee expectations for increased job perks and rapid career advancement opportunities that are all these things are contributing to challenges general managers and business owners are dealing with today on a daily basis. So believe me, I've been there. I've dealt with these types of hiring challenges and more. And fortunately, I've learned from my bad hire experiences how to implement a consistent recruiting and interviewing process that can really empower your organization to confidently hire smarter and faster using some scientifically validated psychometric assessments and other actionable data that you can use to select the right people for the right job. And that's the most important part, is getting the right people in the right roles. So essentially, because I believe hiring shouldn't be a guessing game, that's why I'm going to teach you my data-driven process for recruiting and hiring great fit A-player employees. And it all begins by taking this HireWorx process training class here today. So With all that said, let's take a look at what we're going to be covering in today's masterclass. First, you're going to discover how to save a fortune in recruitment agency fees and turnover replacement costs that we already talked about. You'll learn how to spend a lot less time on employee issues that are costing you money and, more importantly, distracting you from doing your main job. And finally, you're going to discover why hiring good employees is so hit or miss today and what you can do to change that so you can confidently hire people that you know can do the job and will stay with your business for years. So when it comes to finding enough good employees, I'll bet you've tried it all already. You've probably tried professional recruiters and you've probably done some direct recruiting yourself. And yet, for most businesses, after spending thousands of dollars on advertisements and agency fees, finding good employees is still a hit or miss proposition. So the question is, why is recruiting and hiring good people so hard? Well, first I want to tell you, it's not your fault. As a hiring manager and hiring people for over 30 years, I can tell you it's not your fault and you're not alone. Most of my clients have also tried everything and they still have not found a reliable way to confidently hire great employees. Most are still suffering from past hiring mistakes and a high staff turnover rate. So I knew there had to be a reason for this and a better way for people to confidently hire great employees. And after talking to clients and other business managers, it became clear to me that most hiring managers just simply do not have the right candidate information nor the interviewing skill they need to make a truly informed hiring decision. And without all the information you need, plus the proper interviewing skills, all you're really left with is guessing and conjecture about a candidate's appropriateness for a particular position. You see, the information you really need is not on the resume or on their job application form. For example, if a job requires a high level of attention to detail, there's nothing on a resume that tells you how naturally detail-oriented a candidate is. And yet, if you place someone that is not naturally detail-oriented in a position that requires a lot of attention to details, well, then that individual is never going to work out. That individual will grow to hate the job regardless of their qualifications, their work experience, or their skills that's shown on the resume. And because it's their personality, that's not a good fit for that position. If they don't have the right personality for the position, eventually they'll leave you, or worse, they're going to start bothering other people in your business because they're not happy. Now, the good news is there is a way to gather that additional information you need, and it's called the HireWorx process. So the HireWorx recruiting and interviewing process can fill in all that personality information so you can confidently make better hiring decisions and hire people who can not only do the job, but will also happily stick with you. The HireWorx process will also show you how to attract more of the right fit candidates. That's what I call them, is right fit, because their personality is appropriate for the job. So let's face it, when you're looking to hire today, the candidate pool is not as big as it used to be. So you need to know how to attract and retain, I should say, more of the right personality types who will actually thrive in your organization and your work environment. Whether you're using external recruiters or doing the recruitment in-house yourself, the HireWorx process will help you find better fit candidates while also increasing your interviewing and selection skills. And that way you'll be more confident in the decisions you make, and that'll save you time and money. Now, the HireWorx process that I've developed will show you exactly how to do that. And what I want to do is briefly walk you through this unique three-phase, nine-step HireWorx process in today's training. So let's start with the first of the three phases. Phase number one is all about recruiting. And within phase one, you're going to find that there's three steps of how you set up a successful job profile, a recruitment strategy, and a recruiting process for your candidates. And we'll go over each of those steps in a little more detail in a minute. In phase two, it's all about assessing the candidates that you're going to then be interviewing and putting a plan together for that interview and then reviewing the results of the interview. The last phase is all about making an offer that will actually be accepted by your candidates and then onboarding them. So we're going to go through a little more about each one of those steps here in a moment. So let's do that. Step number one is about defining exactly what you're looking for. So from the discussions I've had with various hiring managers over the years, as well as with some of the recruiters that were working to fill open positions I've had, the main challenge you're always faced with is getting the position requirements right and knowing what it is you're actually looking for. I can't overstate how important it is to have good requirements so you know what you're looking for. Now, unfortunately, this step usually tends to go one of two ways when people are recruiting. It tends to be very glib, like Jane just left, so get me someone like Jane. And when a hiring manager just says, get me someone like the person that left, that isn't really helping you define what it is you really need. The other part is, well, sometimes it tends to go overboard and goes the other way where you get this long wish list of things you feel the candidate should have and should be able to do. And unfortunately, you're usually looking for things that never come packaged in one human being. So your search requirements become really less than helpful. So these are your big challenges, and somewhere in the middle, there is a detailed, accurate, and realistic specification that includes the persona of the personality for the type of person who will be ideal for your open position. So your first job in recruiting good candidates is to figure out the true requirements for the job there is to be done and the type of personality that have been successful in that role in the past. Because believe me, if you get your skills right and the qualifications for education and work experience, but you don't get the personality type right, if you get the personality type wrong, then it's not going to work out in the long term. And this is fundamentally what we mean when we say you need to put the right person in the right job. So step one of the HireWorx process will teach you everything you need to know about building what we call a job success profile. Plus, it'll provide you with all the templates and example job descriptions you can draw on to build your own job success profile. In step number two, you're going to build a well-organized recruitment strategy and plan that'll keep your entire hiring team on the same page. So in this step, you're going to decide where you're going to look for candidates. You'll decide if you'll advertise on social media or post your open position on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or LinkedIn. You're going to decide if you're doing an in-house do-it-yourself recruitment or whether you're going to engage an outside recruiting agency. You'll decide things like what fees or expenses you're willing to pay for a new hire. So for example, will you use internal employee referrals, maybe with a new hire bounty bonus? If the internal person recommends an individual that then gets hired, you're going to decide how much you're willing to pay an external recruiter in fees should you hire one of the candidates they provide. You're also going to decide whether the time frame of the interviewing process is going to be, who's going to be on the interviewing team. So in step number two of the process, you're going to walk through all these basic recruitment strategy decisions, and it'll leave you with a written plan your team can follow and then track the performance of that plan. In step number three of the recruitment process, we're going to teach you how to attract the very best candidates for your open positions. And now when I say the best candidates, I mean the most relevant candidates. And here's the most interesting thing. Some things that will attract one person will be the very thing that will repel and turn off someone else. So the reality is, today it's more difficult than ever finding great candidates. So again, you need to know the exact personality type of the individual you're looking for, and you need to know what will attract them to your business and your open position. You really don't just want resumes from anyone that happens to be available. So in step number three, you're going to learn how to best advertise your open position so candidates will know your job exists, and maybe more importantly, they'll be positively motivated to apply for them. And lastly, step number three will also cover how to make it easy for candidates to apply for your position, which is really extremely important in today's competitive recruitment process. You don't want to lose a good candidate halfway through your recruitment funnel because you made the process hard for them to apply and upload their resume or whatever it is they need to do. We're going to show you how to make that attractive to candidates as well. Now, in the phase two assess candidates part, in step number four, now you're at the point where the process will teach you how to screen and shortlist the best fit candidates that you're going to want to interview. So step number four is where the biggest process improvement happens, as this is where you're going to learn how to use today's pre-employment assessments to filter candidates so you don't waste time interviewing individuals that truly wouldn't be a good fit for your open position or your company culture. So this step number four is a very powerful step and one that most businesses don't do today. But in this HireWorx process, we're going to show you how easy it can be to screen your best fit candidates, candidates that won't waste your time and money interviewing the wrong candidates. So once we do that, in step number five, we're going to show you how to create an interview plan and how to use an interview question guide for each individual candidate. And that interview guide is going to be based on results of their pre-employment assessments that you did during step four. So for example, the pre-employment assessment might show you that a particular candidate is the type of individual who wouldn't do well in a panel interview with 4 or 5 interviewers in a conference room all looking at the candidate and judging the candidate's response to a variety of questions. So this type of individual could be a really good fit for your open position, but they may not actually interview well in this type of interview environment. So in step number 5, you're going to learn how to create an interview plan that will extract the most information from the candidate without intimidating them to the point they interview badly, or worse, they might interview well but decide not to consider your company any further, which can happen if you turn them off during the interview process. So it's an important part. In fact, it's so important. The biggest problem with most interviews today is a lot of them tend to wander off course. They tend to talk about generalized things that don't really reveal enough information about the things you actually need to know about a candidate. So in step number 5, you're going to create the actual questions you want to ask the candidate, and those questions will address something specific you want to explore deeper about that candidate's personality and the character that was revealed in the step 4 pre-employment assessments. The step number 5 is going to stage you through the whole interview process. It'll keep you on track, talking about the most revealing and pertinent things that you need to know about a candidate. And in the space of a half hour or an hour, you're going to learn more than you would by just asking off-the-wall ad hoc questions and relying on what you read on the resume. The last part of the assessment is you've now done your pre-employment assessments, you've gotten the short list, you've developed a plan, and now you're going to review the result. So moving on to step number 6 of the process, this is where you're going to learn how to assess each candidate's interview results so you can decide who to invite to a second round of interviews. And I know in many positions you may be tempted to just hire someone after only one interview, but I highly recommend against it. It's never worked well for me, as a second interview always uncovers some additional information about the candidate that may influence your final selection decision. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to receive templates and scoring sheets for capturing your interview team's thoughts and comments about each candidate's performance in the interviews, as well as capturing, those forms will capture your review team's round 1 decisions in writing, and that's going to be important for any future documentation requirements. All right, so now we're in the offer and onboard section of the process where you're going to make your final selection decision and make a job offer and then onboard that new employee should they accept the offer. So in step number 7 is where you're going to make your final selection decision. In step number 7, you're going to review the results of the second round of interviews and see if any new red flags or concerns came up. If anyone on your team has any concerns about a finalist, maybe a third interview could be necessary, but typically you can reach a consensus on the final selection during this final review step. And again, the HireWorx process will provide you with checklists and templates to capture everyone's thoughts and insights that are gathered during the round 2 interviews, and that'll lead you to your final selection decision. So step number 8 of the HireWorx process will walk you through how to prepare what I call a competitive package of value that the candidate will eagerly accept. And now you may not realize or believe this fact, but money is not the only compensation a business can offer prospective employees, especially in today's competitive environment. Even if you can't offer the highest wages in the industry or healthcare benefits or 401k retirement plans, in today's job market, things such as flexible working hours, unlimited personal time off, remote or a hybrid work environment, all this can be packaged into a job offer that makes your business a first choice for your selected candidate. And I'm going to show you how to package your offer to accentuate every positive thing your open position and business has to offer, so you don't have to make it all about the financials. Then lastly, I'm going to walk you through how to perform any required pre-employment background checks, and checks such as criminal records, work permits, drug tests, reference checks. I'm going to do that in case you're not familiar with doing these types of checks. And even if you are, the HireWorx process provides you with offer letter templates and phone scripts to make communicating these requirements for background checks as easy and less time consuming and intimidating for the candidate as possible. Now lastly, in step number 9 of the hiring process, it doesn't end with the offer letter. You need to be intentional about the onboarding process for every new employee, especially with virtual positions in a hybrid work environment, as new hires can have a harder time feeling connected with their new team and company if they're working remotely. For example, well before their first day, you need to be emailing your new hire an agenda, a training timeline, and meeting invites so they know what to expect when they go live in their seat. And if they work from home, you need to have all their needed supplies and equipment, if any, shipped to their house before their start date. So in step number 9, you're going to learn some creative ways you can expose internal and remote employees to your company culture, and you want to get them excited, such as sending them maybe a personalized video of all their new teammates welcoming them on board to the team. We'll talk about ways you can do that. We're going to show you how to put together a complete onboarding process you'll be able to use over and over to reduce the amount of disruption a new employee can have on your time or the time of your other employees. So in my experience, the onboarding process at most businesses is an often overlooked and kind of an ad hoc process that can leave a new employee feeling overwhelmed and actually frustrated to the point where they may leave after the first week, which I've seen happen at a big medical office. So you don't want to overlook this onboarding step. So if we go back and look at the whole process, those are the main elements of the process I wanted to cover today. There's some other stuff that I do that I don't have time to cover today, but I think you'll see the HireWorx process can take your hiring from point A to point B with a structured, repeatable process that will give you confidence in your ability to interview and select the best fit individuals for any role in your business, be it sales, customer service, engineering, manufacturing, quality control, whatever the role may be. So with all that said, it's really important to zoom out and look at the entire HireWorx process. And I want you to understand that this is a complete system to get you from point A to point B. And so I want you to ask yourself, what's your confidence you'll get better results using a process like this compared to what you're doing now? And that leaves just one other very important question I have for you. Are you ready to eliminate bad hire decisions from your hiring process in as little as the next 90 days? And if so, I have great news for you. I have a truly great offer I don't think you can refuse. Imagine if you could partner directly with me and my team to customize the proven HireWorx process and install it into your exact business based on your specific situation and time frame. I'm talking about your job specification development, your recruiting plan, your shortlisting process, your interviewing plan, your offer preparation, your onboarding process, the whole HireWorx process, everything you need to take you from point A to point B, all done together. It'll also include the premium training program, the templates, the tools and swipe files, everything you and your hiring managers need to customize and install this exact process into your business. So if you believe that the HireWorx process would produce better hiring decisions compared to what you're doing today, all you have to do is book a quick discovery call with me where we'll get together. We'll talk about you, we'll talk about your business and your hiring challenges, and we'll find out what's holding you back, and then we'll reverse engineer a clear path from point A to point B to find out if and how I can help you, and if you're a good fit for my HireWorx Pro Coaching Program. Just click on the Let's Build Your New Hiring Process Together button that's below this video and reserve your HireWorx Pro Coaching Discovery Session so you can finally take the first step to reducing the cost of bad hires in your business. And if you do, I'll talk to you soon.